while out of office. So, what does this mean for us? What does this mean for our country? Is this a political witch hunt? Or is it enforcing law and order? Well, we'll explore that question and more today. But first, let's look at history of impeachment. The impeachment process is outlined in Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. It allows the House of Representatives to impeach a federal official and the Senate to try and remove that official from office. Pretty simple. Now, impeachment's a serious matter. It's only been used a handful of times. So, the first president to be impeached was Andrew Johnson in 1868. The Senate acquitted Johnson, but he was still deeply unpopular. The next president to be impeached was Bill Clinton in 1998. Now, Clinton was accused of perjury, obstruction of justice, but the Senate also acquitted him. The next president to be impeached, now we have Donald Trump, who has been impeached twice. His first impeachment was in 2019 for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Trump was later impeached for inciting an insurrection on January 6th, 2021, and abuse of power. The Senate again acquitted him both times. So let's talk about the indictments. He was first indicted by a grand jury in New York City for allegedly committing financial crimes. In January 2023, Trump and his company, the Trump Organization, were sued by the New York Attorney General Letitia James for allegedly engaging in financial fraud. The lawsuit alleged that Trump and his company had inflated the value of their assets and concealed liabilities to obtain loans and insurance policies. In June of 2023, Trump and the Trump Organization agreed to pay $12 million to settle that lawsuit. The settlement also required Trump to hand over financial records and allow the Attorney General to office to monitor his business for 3 years. Wow. Now, Trump has denied any wrongdoing. And he said that he settled the lawsuit to avoid cost and distraction. The Attorney General's office said the settlement is a significant victory in fighting against financial fraud. The settlement does not resolve the criminal investigation into Trump's business dealings. The Manhattan District Attorney still investigating Trump and his company for possible criminal charges. Now, on March 8th, 2023, a New York jury found the former president, Donald Trump, liable for defaming E. Jean Carroll, a former advice columnist from Elle magazine. The jury awarded Carroll $5 million in damages. Wow. Now, Carroll accused Trump of raping her in a department store dressing room in the mid-1990s. Trump denied the allegations, calling them totally false. He also said that Carroll was not my type. In 2019, Carroll sued Trump for defamation. She alleged Trump's denials of her allegations were false and defamatory, and they damaged her reputation. The jury found that Trump's statements about Carroll were false and defamatory and made with actual malice. Now, that Actual malice is the high standard of proof that's required for the plaintiff to show that the defendant knew their statements were false or acted recklessly to disregard the truth. That's a huge burden. The jury's verdict is a significant victory for Carroll and a setback for Trump. The verdict sends a message that Trump cannot use his power and influence to silence critics. Now, it's important to note that the civil case against Trump is separate from a criminal investigation that's still ongoing against for the allegations of sexual assault. The criminal investigation is going to continue. Whether Trump faces criminal charges, we won't know. Now, on June 9th, 2023, I'm going to be out of breath by the time we get to what I want to talk about, because I'm just trying to go over the basics. Now, again, on June 9th, 2023, just this month, a federal grand jury in Miami indicted former President Donald Trump on 37 charges, including 31 counts of willful retention of national defense information, 3 counts of withholding or concealing documents in a federal investigation, 2 counts of false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to obstruct justice. 40 some odd pages if you want to read it. And let me tell you, reading it makes a difference if you're a Trump supporter or not. You have to really, you got to read things to understand them, especially when there's so much conflict. So the charges alleged that Trump and his associates one person, possessed classified documents at Mar-a-Lago in Florida after he left office. Now, the charges also allege that Trump and his associate made false statements about the documents and obstructed justice by trying to influence the investigation. Now, Trump has pleaded not guilty on Tuesday to all charges. His trial is scheduled for January 15th, 2024. Nice. Right at the beginning of the real heavy election time. So the charges against Trump are severe and could result in a lengthy prison sentence if convicted. Now, Trump denied all the allegations against him and vowed to fight every single charge. Now, the indictment is significant development in the ongoing investigation into Trump's handling of the classified information. It is also a sign that the Justice Department is willing to hold former presidents accountable for their actions. Now, let's focus on the Constitution, its amendments that outline the qualifications, the performance of duties, and the length of time of President of the United States. Now, let's talk the qualifications. Now, these are this is real hard to qualify to be President of the United States, okay? Constitution makes it really difficult. So the Constitution specifies the following qualifications for president. You need to be at least 35 years old, a natural-born citizen of the United States, a resident of the United States for at least 14 years. Okay, that means Bob Hope wouldn't be qualified. That means Schwarzenegger's not qualified. But you get it. It's really, I was being sarcastic. It's really easy to make the requirements. Now, the performance of duties, the president is the head of state, the head of government of the United States. The president is responsible for carrying out the laws passed by Congress, appointing federal officials, and negotiating treaties with foreign governments. The president also has the power to veto legislation passed by Congress, grant pardons, and call a special session into Congress. The length of time, the Constitution limits that president to 2 terms in office. This means a president can only serve a maximum of 8 years in office. The 22nd Amendment, ratified in 1951, was passed to prevent one person from becoming ultra powerful. Now, amendments. The Constitution has amended the Constitution 27 times since it was ratified in 1788. Some of the amendments that have affected the office of president include the 12th Amendment, ratified in 1804, changed how the president and the vice president are elected. The 22nd Amendment, ratified in 1951, limited the president to 2 terms in office. The 25th Amendment, ratified in 1967, established procedures for dealing with president's inability to discharge the powers and duties of the president of the office. The Constitution and the amendments provide a framework of the President of the United States. These documents have been amended to reflect the country's changing needs. And I talk about that all the time. Now, the trial could end after November 20. Okay, so the trial could actually end after November 2024. The election would be over. If Trump or the prosecution asks for a continuance, the judge must decide whether to grant it. There are several factors that I found that the judge will consider. It's going to be such as the complexity of the case, the availability of the witnesses, and the need to ensure a fair trial. That, I think, is the hardest one right there. If the trial ends after the election, it could have some implications. For example, if Trump is convicted, he could be barred from public office. This could significantly impact the Republican Party, as Trump is still the prevalent figure among the Republican Party. The trial could end in impacting the election itself. If Trump is convicted, it could damage his chances of winning re-election. However, it also, as we know, could possibly be the catalyst to rally his supporters and get him elected. We saw at least 2,000 people in Miami when Trump was going to plead not guilty. It's amazing how he has that effect on people. Now, ultimately, the outcome of the trial is going to be uncertain. However, it is a significant event that has majorly impacts American politics. Here are some of the factors that I found the judge may consider when deciding whether to grant the continuance. I've already said it, but the complexity of the case. So the more complex, he may require more preparation time. This could lead the judge to grant that continuance. The availability of witness. If key witnesses are unavailable, the judge may be more likely to do the continuance. The need to ensure a fair trial. The judge will want to ensure that Trump has a fair trial, and if he believes that the trial cannot be fair due to scheduling constraints, he may grant a continuance. So if the trial does end up after the election, it could have the implications of Trump being barred from holding public office. The trial could damage or help Trump's chances. The trial could have a significant impact, and a few different authorities could bar Trump from holding office. So now I say that with these are, let me explain. None of what I've just said is really, let me get into it. So Congress would have to bar him. Now Congress could, they could pass a law that explicitly bars Trump from holding public office. Now this would require a 2/3 majority vote in the House of Representatives and the Senate. That's a big threshold when you look at the makeup of our current Congress. Now, the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution prohibits anyone who has engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid to someone from holding office. But it's possible that Congress could use to bar Trump from running for president in 2024. The Supreme Court could rule that Trump is ineligible to hold office based on January 6, 2021. These are all a long shot, guys. It's possible nothing happens at all. It's important to note that none of these authorities have been used to bar Trump from holding public office. However, one of them could be used in the future. Congress, again, they'd have to pass a law. The 14th Amendment was put in effect because of slavery. So civil war, it was a civil war and everything. So this is it makes you speechless, because you're talking about the 31 counts come from the Espionage Act. And the Espionage Act has been used very few times. Ultimately, it's too early to say whether Trump will be barred from public office, but it's possible that nothing happens at all. Now that I've given you, I'm giving you hope. So if you're a Trump fan, like all those things I just said would take a huge leap to get to. So I'm going to dash the hopes of those Democrats that were going, oh yes, Joel, you're on our side. You got this. No, Democrats. I'm going to dash them just as quickly as I got your hopes up. Nothing in the Constitution or the law prevents someone from running for president while in prison. Here's the best part. There have been a few people who've done it. In 1920, Eugene V. Debs, a socialist leader, ran for president while in prison for violating, guess what? The Espionage Act. Woo! No, you can't make this shit up. He received nearly 1 million votes. And then in 1992, Lyndon LaRoche, a political activist, ran for president while in prison for mail fraud. He received about 100,000 votes. It got a little harder after the first time. Oh, you can't make this up, guys. I'm telling you, this is the most fun I've had on this show, because I'm like just watching everybody, like just watching the thrill of this. People are all over the map. So I really wanted to research this, because my business partner, Dave, is like, really, Joel, somebody asked this question. And I'm like, the very first thing that popped in my head was there was nothing that could happen. Nothing. Now, I told you how a 2/3 majority in Congress would have to vote. That's 2 houses. The Supreme Court would have to kind of go like, well, he's never been charged, but we're going to jump in here and say, hey, guess what? He led the insurrection on January 6th. But they'd have to actually call it an insurrection. And the Supreme Court's never said that. So, of course, there's practical challenges for running for president from prison. Let's look at it. Traveling and meeting the voter would be impossible. You're sitting in jail. How am I gonna get out there and see my constituents? It would be challenging to raise money unless you're Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump, just because he walks in the door of a jail, he raised millions of dollars. Now, none of this, I was like shocked. I got my notes, but I have barely touched what I put in my notes, because this is crazy. Now, if Trump were convicted and sentenced to prison, it would be interesting to see how he would run for president. But he will most likely continue his campaign, period. We know him. We know he has a large and loyal following and could undoubtedly raise money. However, It is also possible that the conviction would damage his reputation and make it difficult for him to win. Not. No, you think that might be the case, but no. So ultimately, the Donald Trump would continue to run for president, and if he did, he does decide to continue, it would be a historic event. No one has ever been elected president while in prison. Well, folks, that's all the time I have for today. I thank you for tuning in, and remember, if you see something, say something. Unless it's Trump, then laugh and move on. Just kidding, Trump. We're all rooting for you in the courtroom. That is, not in the White House again. That was a wild ride, and it's not over yet. Who knows what the future holds for you? But one thing is for sure, you've made history. For better or worse, only time will tell. Just kidding, Trump supporters. Don't want you all to think that that was for our Democrats out there. Trump supporters, I know we're all very passionate about our candidate, and that's great. But let's all try to keep things civil, okay? After all, we're all Americans, and we're all in this together. But seriously, folks, let's all just enjoy the show. And maybe, just maybe, we'll learn a thing or two about ourselves along the way. But well, folks, that's all the time again I have for today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please like and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to share with your friends and family. The more people know about us, the more we can reach with our message. So let's spread the word about Morning Constitution and help make America a more informed and engaged nation. Now visit us on our social media by going to www.j-washington.com. Thank you very much.